Every single year, thousands of people pack up and move to Richmond, Virginia. Some are chasing job opportunities, and others are drawn to lower cost of living, and many are looking for just a better lifestyle. In fact, Richmond's population has been growing faster than most mid-sized cities on the East Coast. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Moving here isn't just as simple as picking a house. The real challenge is figuring out which part of Richmond actually fits your lifestyle. Because the truth is, this city isn't one big market. It's a collection of completely different neighborhoods, each with its own personality, price tag, and lifestyle. And that's exactly where most people go wrong. Here's the thing about Richmond. For a city of its size, it punches way above its weight when it comes to lifestyle and culture. This is a place where Saturday mornings can start at the farmer's market with fresh local produce and end with rooftop drinks overlooking the James River. You've got a nationally recognized food scene that blends Southern comfort with modern creativity. Breweries are everywhere, each with its own vibe, and the coffee shops here feel more like community hangouts than chain stores. The arts are woven into daily life too. Richmond has one of the most vibrant street art scenes in the country. Entire blocks are covered in colorful murals that tell the story of the city's past and the future. You'll find music festivals, local galleries, and a theater scene that pulls in talent from all over. And then there's the history. Cobblestone streets, Civil War landmarks, century-old homes. It's the kind of city where you're constantly reminded of where we've come from, even as new development rises all around it. Festivals are constant, whether it's food, music, or cultural events, and they give the city this buzz that makes it feel alive year-round. Outdoor concerts on summer nights, food trucks lined up by the river, holiday parades in winter. Richmond doesn't just sit still, it celebrates life in every season. I worked with a couple from California who came to visit in June. We ended up walking through downtown Ashland just as the Ashland Strawberry Fair was kicking off. Food trucks, live music, strawberries everywhere. They told me later that was the moment we decided Richmond wasn't just a stop, it felt like home. And honestly, this is where a lot of my clients first fall in love with Richmond. They see the James River packed with kayakers, families spread out at outdoor concerts, or friends grabbing drinks in Scott's Addition, and they realize this isn't just a place to live, it's a lifestyle. Now, if you're new here, my name is Holly Fye. I'm a local real estate agent here in Richmond, Virginia, and I help people just like you make this metro area their new home. And here's what I want you to know. If you found me on YouTube and you're even just thinking about moving to Richmond, it's completely normal to reach out. I help relocation clients every single day, many of whom started by watching videos just like this one. So whether you're ready to start house hunting or you're still in the early stages of figuring out which neighborhood might feel right, call, text, or email me anytime. I'd love to be your first local connection here. But before we get swept away by breweries and festivals, we need to talk about the one thing everyone moving here wants to know first: the cost of living. Money talks, and in Richmond it often surprises people. Compared to DC, New York, or even Charlotte, your dollar goes noticeably further here. That's why so many people pack up and head on to Richmond. Affordability without giving up lifestyle. I had a client relocating from New York City who kept saying, I feel like I'm getting away with something. Their condo in Manhattan was a fraction of the size and twice the price of the Midlothian home they ended up buying. The look on their kids' faces when they saw the backyard was priceless. Housing is where most people feel the difference. According to recent market data, the median home price in the Richmond metro is often in the low to mid $400,000 range, while places like DC or Northern Virginia can be double or even triple that. Of course, every neighborhood is different and prices can climb quickly depending on where you're looking. Sure, Pump and Midlothian may be more expensive than Mechanicsville or Powhatan, for example. That's why it's important to look at each area individually. Day-to-day living also tends to stretch your budget further. Groceries, gas, utilities, and even dining out often run lower than in major metros. In fact, Richmond's overall cost of living index usually comes in below the national average. Virginia's tax structure is another factor that can save you money compared to states with higher income or property taxes. But here's the important part. Cost of living is personal. What feels affordable to one family might feel stretched for another. And it really comes down to lifestyle choices and which part of Richmond you call home. I always recommend doing your own research on the most up-to-date numbers because markets shift and every household situation is different. And speaking of neighborhoods, let's dive into where people actually live in Richmond and what makes each area unique. People get a sense of Richmond's cost of living. The next question is, where should I live? And this is where Richmond really shines because there's truly something for everyone. If you love the energy of the city living, you'll find historic neighborhoods like the Fan and Churchill. These are filled with colorful row houses, tree-lined streets, and a true sense of character. You can walk to restaurants, coffee shops, and nightlife, which is a huge plus for people who want that urban convenience. Just keep in mind, city homes often come with smaller yards, older construction, and higher prices per square foot. One client I helped moved into the Fan, and she joked that her car started collecting dust. Between walking to her job, her favorite coffee shop, and rooftop bars, she barely touched it. For her, it was like living in a mini version of New York, but with friendlier neighbors. If suburban life is more your speed, Short Pump is one of the most popular areas. It has newer homes, some luxury communities, endless shopping and dining, and quick access to major highways. Midlothian is another favorite, especially for families with a mix of newer subdivisions, strong community feel, and plenty of amenities. Then you've got Bon Air, which has a little more of that older, established suburban charm with tree-shaped lots and a quieter pace. If you're looking for value and convenience, Mechanicsville is a great option. It's close to downtown, but gives you more space and often a lower price point than some of the western suburbs. And for those who want even more room to spread out, Powhatan County offers a rural feel with larger lots, farmland, and privacy. Just know that life here means a longer commute and fewer big city conveniences. And here's the key thing. Richmond isn't one big uniform market. Each neighborhood is its own micro market with different price points, personalities, and lifestyles. What feels like a perfect fit in Short Pump may feel completely different in Mechanicsville or Chesterfield. That's why so many people moving here lean on me to help narrow it down, because the truth is, picking the right neighborhood is often more important than picking the right house. Now that we've covered where people live, let's talk about what life feels like once you're here. And in Richmond, a big part of that is the outdoors and the weather. One thing that makes Richmond stand out is how connected life is here to the outdoors. The James River runs right through the city, and it isn't just a pretty backdrop. People kayak, raft, paddleboard, and even surf the rapids when water levels are right. The riverfront trails are filled with runners, bikers, and families out walking, and on a warm weekend, you'll see groups of friends picnicking on the rocks with the skyline right behind them. Beyond the river, Richmond is surrounded by parks and green space. Maymont Park is one of the local favorites with gardens, rolling lawns, and even a small petting zoo. Then you've got the Capitol Trail, which stretches from Richmond all the way to Williamsburg, making it perfect for bikers and long-distance runners. I had one client who was an avid cyclist, and when I showed him the Capitol Trail, his eyes lit up. A month after closing, he sent me a photo from a 40-mile ride and said, "This trail sold me more than the house did." If you're willing to drive a couple of hours, you can hike in the Blue Ridge Mountains or spend a weekend at Virginia Beach, which gives you the best of both worlds. Now, let's talk about the weather. Richmond has 4 true seasons, and each one comes with its own personality. Believe it or not, some of my clients tell me the reason they are moving to RVA is for those 4 seasons. Spring brings festivals and blooming trees. Summers are hot and humid, sometimes uncomfortably so, but they also mean long days by the river and late night concerts outdoors. Fall is gorgeous with colorful leaves and cooler weather that makes being outside a joy. Winters are mild compared to northern states with the occasional snowfall, but usually nothing that shuts down the city for long. Of course, the flip side is that the humidity is high, especially if you're not used to the sticky summers. And seasonal allergies, let's just say Richmond is consistently ranked among the tougher cities for pollen in the spring. It's part of the package deal, but most people agree that the lifestyle perks make it worth it. One of my clients who moved from the Midwest called me during the first spring here and said, "Nobody warned me my car would turn yellow from pollen." But now they laugh about it because they're kayaking the river every weekend. So if you love being outside and want that balance of urban life with easy access to nature, Richmond is hard to beat. But lifestyle is only one piece of the puzzle. The other big factor people weigh before moving here is work. So let's talk about jobs, the local economy, and what keeps Richmond growing. Richmond is booming, and it's not just because people love the lifestyle. The job market here is fueling the growth. Companies are expanding, new industries are taking root, and opportunities are pulling people in from all over the country. Healthcare leads the way with VCU Health and Bon Secours standing as two of the region's biggest employers. Finance and insurance are powerhouse industries too, with Capital One, Alliance, and others providing stable careers. Richmond's role as Virginia's capital also means government jobs are a steady presence, and in the last few years, tech and logistics have been growing fast, adding fresh energy to the market. For my relocation clients, this balance is what makes Richmond so attractive. You can build a solid career here without the crushing cost of living that comes with cities like DC or New York. It's that mix of opportunity and affordability that makes people take the leap. Education plays a big role as well. Richmond is home to Virginia Commonwealth University, the University of Richmond, Virginia Union University, and many other higher education institutions. These schools bring jobs, sports, culture, and a steady flow of new talent to the city. And then there are the K through 12 schools like the one you see behind us. This is always top of mind for families, and it's where I remind people to do their own research. School ratings and experiences can vary from one neighborhood to the next. So the best move is to use official resources, tour the area and the schools, and decide what feels like the right fit. Between strong career opportunities, respected universities, and a growing population, it's no surprise Richmond is on the rise. But there's one reality check that every person moving here needs to understand: transportation and commutes. Getting around Richmond isn't like navigating a massive metro with trains running every 5 minutes. This is very much a driving city, and most people rely on their own car to get from point A to point B. You'll probably see some go past behind me. Commutes vary widely depending on where you live. If you're in the suburbs like Short Pump, Midlothian, or Mechanicsville, expect anywhere from a 20 to 40 minute commute to get into downtown Richmond during rush hour. On the flip side, if you're in the city itself, you may not have much of a commute at all, but parking can be its own challenge. Public transportation does exist, but it is limited. The GRTC Pulse bus line runs through parts of the city and can be convenient if you're downtown or along those main corridors. But for most people, it's not practical as your only mode of transportation. This is where lifestyle and neighborhood choice really come into play. If you want easy access to highways, suburbs like Short Pump or Chesterfield are great. If you'd rather walk or bike to local spots, neighborhoods like the Fan or Scott's Addition might be a better fit. One client of mine from New York kept asking about trains and subways. After a month here, she said, "Okay, you were right. Richmond is a car city, but the upside is I'm not stuck underground for an hour or more every day." Traffic in Richmond isn't on the scale of DC or Atlanta, but it can back up during peak hours, especially on 64, 95, and 295. It's more of an annoyance than a nightmare, but it's definitely something to factor in when choosing where to live. So the bottom line is this: if you're moving to Richmond, plan on driving. The city is spread out, and while each neighborhood feels unique, they're connected best by highways. That's the reality of daily life here. And while transportation can make or break your experience, it's not the whole story. To really understand what living here feels like, you have to weigh the pros and the cons of Richmond as a whole. Like any city, Richmond has its pros and its cons. I always want to give you the full picture. On the plus side, affordability is a huge draw. Compared to your other East Coast cities, your money stretches a lot further here, especially when it comes to housing. And the variety of lifestyles is another big win. You can live in a historic row house in the city, a suburban neighborhood with plenty of space, or even head out to the counties where you've got room for land and privacy. Add to that a vibrant food and culture scene with breweries, restaurants, arts, and history on every corner, and it's no surprise people fall in love with Richmond. But let's be real, it's not perfect. Richmond is very much a driving city, so if you're used to hopping on a subway or train, that can be an adjustment. Summers can get hot and humid, which isn't everyone's favorite. And with the number of people moving here, the housing market has gotten more competitive in recent years, which means desirable homes and neighborhoods can move quickly. I had a buyer 2 years ago who started working with a different agent. They put in 18 offers and lost every single one. They transitioned to working with me. We got strategic. They ended up finding a better neighborhood that fit them perfectly, and we secured them a home with our very first offer. The competition is real, but so are the wins when you know how to navigate it. Even with those challenges, most people I work with feel like the benefits far outweigh the drawbacks. When you balance the affordability, lifestyle options, and overall feel of the city, Richmond ends up being a place that just makes sense for so many different people. Here's the thing I've learned after helping so many families and individuals move to Richmond. The hardest part isn't finding a house, it's figuring out where you actually fit. Richmond isn't one big market. It's a collection of neighborhoods and suburbs that all feel completely different. What works for a young professional who wants nightlife and walkability isn't going to be the same as what works for a family that wants more space and a quieter pace. People relocating to Richmond, Virginia often tell me the hardest part is trying to make sense of the city from behind a computer screen. You can read neighborhood guides, scroll Zillow, and look at maps, but none of that tells you what it actually feels like to live here. For example, you might see 2 homes in the same price range, but one is in a neighborhood with constant activity, while the other is tucked away in a cul-de-sac that's quiet. Without context, it's nearly impossible to know which one really fits your lifestyle. Another challenge people face is timing. Some need to move quickly for work, while others want to rent for 6 months to get their bearings before buying. I've worked with people in both situations, and the key is having a clear plan that matches your comfort level. Sometimes that means lining up virtual tours before you even arrive. Other times it means touring homes in person once you're here, with me guiding you through the neighborhoods so that you can compare and contrast the ones that you've seen and how they make you feel. There's also the commute factor. A house that looks perfect online might end up being an hour drive from where you need to be every morning. And that's not something you want to discover after you've already unpacked the moving boxes. That's why having someone local who can give you that perspective up front makes such a difference. So whether it's the timing of your move, figuring out which neighborhood matches your lifestyle, or understanding what your daily commute will really feel like, these are all things I help people work through every single day. And that's why so many people who start right here on YouTube end up leaning on me to make their transition smoother.